Hey, this is Schuyler from themixingprocess.com, and obviously you've clicked on this video because you want to know the secret of how a group and a send can save your bacon, save your mixes bacon. So I have good news. I want to help you with that today. I want to teach you how these two tools can actually really simplify your mixing process, make it a lot easier on your mind, on your computer to process all this stuff and just make a much more cohesive mix in the end. So let's get into it. So I have here a mix. We'll go up here to the top. So I've got these about 8 drum tracks here, and as you can see, I've kind of split them out into different groups, like here, and then those groups are fed into a master drum bus. So a group or a bus, a lot of times those terms are interchangeable. So the reason I would do that is because what if I had eight or 10 drum tracks or however many, and I wanted to EQ them all, okay? Well, there's two ways to do this. Either I could take an EQ plugin and put it on every single one of those drum tracks, in which case I'd have to dial every EQ in, make sure it sounded just right, or I could take an EQ plugin and just EQ the entire kit as a whole. And I could do that by putting it on this single master drum bus. So that's where it can be helpful. I can just, run one plugin instead of having to affect everything all individually. Just do it all together, all in one unit, and it makes it a lot easier, and your computer doesn't have to process as much. It's a lot easier for you to set up, and it makes your mix more cohesive because everything is being processed all together at the same time. All right, so now that we understand what a group does and how to do that, how that can be helpful, let's get into a send. What is a send, and how do we use it to help simplify our mixing process? All right, so if I get into this mixing tab here, up here I've got all the different plugins I'm running on all of these tracks. On the second row here I have some sends. Now what is a send? A send, I'll get rid of all these so I can illustrate this. A send is actually a copy of that original track. So let's say I want to take this vocal track here and I want to apply some reverb to it. Well, again, I can either take a reverb plugin and put it on that track, but what if I want to apply the same reverb to all of these? Well, I could put a reverb plugin on every single one of those tracks, but that would take a long time to dial it all in correctly, and then also my computer then is processing 3 different reverb plugins for 3 different tracks. So instead of doing that, I can use this grouping process that we talked about. So I can take all these vocals and I can put them into a group, and I could just put one reverb plugin on this and affect all the vocal tracks. But since this is a project that's, got 20 something tracks in it, I'm probably going to want to use that reverb for some other ones as well. So instead, I can just make one track, title it reverb, and I can put this this plugin here, set it all up the way I want that reverb, and then I can use a send to send whatever track I want to have reverb effect on it. I can send that track over to this reverb track to get processed before going to the master. So what that looks like is if I take this track here, I can make a copy of that track with a send it over here, and this little meter pops up, and what I can do is either send as little or as much of that track, that copy, as I want to go be processed, and that will help blend those two signals together. So now I've got this really wet signal going over here to the reverb track, and it leaves this one unprocessed and dry over here. And then I can kind of blend those two together. And I can do that with all of these tracks if I want to, or even some of these over here. It just makes it a lot more cohesive and a lot simpler to set up to run it that way instead of putting individual plugins on every single track that you do. So that's how you would use groups and then use sends on those groups. So here all of these vocal tracks right here are headed into this group. And then all the sends, instead of putting all of the sends on these individual channels, I can just take this group and send over to the reverb, the doubler, the delays, any effects that I have, send it straight over there. I only have to do it on this one group track. So it makes a lot more sense. It's a lot simpler, a lot more cohesive in your mix, because then everything is being processed together and by the same plugins instead of everything having their own setup. It really simplifies the process, makes it a lot faster, makes it easier on your computer to process that, and also just makes it sound a lot more cohesive in the end by the time you're done doing that. So hopefully that was helpful, just getting that explanation of how these things work together to make your mixing process easier. If you are new at this mixing process, you're trying to learn how to do all these different tricks, you're trying to learn, gain, compression, EQ, all of those different things. I have a guide on my website, themixingprocess.com, that walks through the 7 steps that I take in every single mix. It'll give you a really systematic approach to all these different things that we're talking about, help you not miss any of those important steps. Again, that's on my website, themixingprocess.com. It's completely free to you, so go check that out. I think it'll really help your mix as you learn how to do all these different steps. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.